My girlfriend used my 200K savings to fund her affair partner's business while I worked. So I took every penny back and left her homeless alone. I'm a 28-year-old guy, and for years, I genuinely believed Lily was my soulmate. If you'd met us in college, you'd have thought the same. We were always side by side, mapping out big plans on napkins, dreaming of a life with no bosses, no bills hanging over our heads. She used to sketch little houses in my notebooks during boring lectures, whispering, "One day, this'll be us, financially free, traveling the world, laughing about how broke we used to be." I remember thinking, out of all the people I could have met, how did I get so lucky? After graduation, we didn't waste time. We got a shoebox apartment downtown, tiny, always too warm, the kind of place you romanticize in your 20s. I picked up a job as an IT consultant, working with cranky execs by day, then pulling 8-hour shifts driving rideshare through the city at night. Sometimes I'd come home at 2 a.m. and Lily would still be awake, hunched over her laptop, muttering about pitch decks and angel investors. She called herself a serial entrepreneur, always jumping from one app idea to the next. I didn't care that she hadn't found her big break yet. I wanted to believe her when she said, "We're a team. Everything we do is for our future." Lily always asked me to hand over my paycheck. "Just to make things easier, I'll manage the bills, babe. You focus on hustling." I felt proud of us, like we were playing the long game while everyone else was blowing money on brunch and new cars. Every time my account balance inched higher, she'd light up and say, "Look at you, big shot." I'd laugh, thinking she was the best thing that ever happened to me. But sometimes, lying in bed after another double shift, I'd catch her scrolling on her phone with this strange little smirk, like she was in on some secret joke. I'd ask what she was reading, and she'd brush it off. "Startup memes, go to sleep, you workaholic." I never thought twice about it. If I'd known what she was really building, maybe I wouldn't have let her hold the keys to everything we owned. But back then, all I saw was a future with her, and I never questioned if she saw the same thing. And then, one night, she looked at me across the dinner table and said, "You trust me, right?" I didn't know it then, but my answer would change everything. It's funny how quickly ambition can turn into a burden, especially when you're the only one carrying it. Lily was a master storyteller when it came to her family. Every time they came over, she'd pour wine and talk about building something big, how her next app would change the game, how investors were circling. I'd sit quietly at the edge of the conversation, trying to smile while her mother eyed my thrift store shirt and her dad asked how much longer this hustle phase would last. Once, after they left, I heard her mom on speakerphone. "He's sweet, but is he really going anywhere, Lil?" Lily just laughed and turned the music up. I doubled down at work. Over time, weekends, holidays, it all blurred together. There were months when the only sunlight I saw was the strip through my car windshield, or the brief flicker when I'd hand Lily my pay stubs. Friends would text about bachelor trips or concerts, and I'd make excuses, always next time. Lily would kiss my forehead and say, "You're sacrificing for us. I see it. It'll all be worth it." She had a way of making me feel seen and invisible at the same time. But the bills never let up. Every month, rent came out of my account, not hers. Groceries, utilities, her endless Amazon business supplies, it all piled up. One night, I broke and asked, "Are we okay financially? Should I be worried?" She barely looked up from her laptop, just tapped a few keys and spun the screen toward me. Color-coded spreadsheets, charts, lines trending up. "Don't worry, I'm handling our investments. Just give it a little longer, babe." Her faith in herself was so absolute, It felt dangerous to doubt her. I told myself that the exhaustion, the ache in my back, the constant calculation of whether I could afford a new pair of shoes was just the price you pay to build something with someone. I was proud of how hard I was working, but the truth was, I was running on fumes, chasing a dream that didn't even have my name on it. Sometimes, after she fell asleep, I'd scroll job postings for something better, wondering if I was the anchor or the engine. But every morning, she'd kiss me on the cheek, promise just a little longer, and I'd head out the door, still believing in us. I never realized how deep in the hole I was digging, until the ground started to shift beneath me. Looking back, it scares me how blind I was, how easily love can turn into a soft, warm fog that hides the cliffs right in front of you. The first red flag was her insistence on controlling all our finances. Every time I'd try to log into the joint account, she'd slide her hand over the screen and whisper, "Babe, you're too stressed. Let me handle this part. You already do enough." It sounded sweet, protective even, but there was something sharp underneath, like a warning not to look too closely. Whenever I'd ask simple questions, "Hey, what was that $400 charge, say?" or "Why did our savings dip last month?" her face would harden. She'd cross her arms, tilt her head, and accuse me of not trusting her. "Is this really who you want to be?" she'd ask, voice trembling. "A boyfriend who polices his partner?" And instantly, guilt would wash over me. I'd apologize, wrap my arms around her, tell her I didn't mean it like that. She always knew exactly which emotional buttons to press. Then came Travis, the so-called business mentor. I remember the first time she mentioned him. She said his name casually, like he was just another entrepreneur helping her refine her ideas, but soon she started talking about him a lot. Too much, his insight, his brilliance, his belief in her. "He just gets how driven I am," she'd say, almost wistfully. I'd try to smile, but something inside me twisted. The late nights started next. She'd come home at midnight, cheeks flushed, smelling like unfamiliar cologne and craft cocktails. When I asked where she'd been, she'd roll her eyes and say, "Working. Not everyone gets to clock out at 5, babe." I'd tell her it wasn't about the time. It was about the secrecy. But she'd brush off my concern like I was some paranoid teenager. "You're jealous," she'd say. "It's embarrassing." And because she was all I had, my partner, my future, the person I'd built my entire life around, I convinced myself she was right. I told myself I was insecure, overthinking, overworked. I swallowed every doubt, every instinct, every tiny alarm bell ringing in the back of my skull. I didn't know then that the real embarrassment wasn't jealousy. It was how deeply she was already betraying me, while I stood there defending her. After years of scraping by, chasing gigs, and living off cheap coffee, I finally did it. I watched my bank app flip over to $200,000 in savings and felt something inside me lift, like maybe, finally, I could breathe. I didn't even celebrate at first. I just sat on the edge of our bed, phone shaking in my hand, staring at those numbers. When I told Lily, she screamed. Full on, hands over mouth, tears sparkling in her eyes' joy. She hugged me so tightly I could barely breathe. "We did it, babe. This is the foundation of our future," she whispered, and for a moment I believed we were unstoppable. That night, she made a big show of lighting candles, ordering takeout from our favorite Thai place, and pulling out an old vision board she'd made in college. "You earned this," she said, her voice trembling with pride. "Now, let's make it work for us." I found a high-yield business account, FDIC insured, super secure, no fees, better returns than what we have now. She flashed spreadsheets, interest rate tables, even a video from some financial YouTuber who sounded like he was selling magic beans. I remember how my heart raced, not just from excitement but from fear. What if it was a scam? What if something went wrong? She must have seen the hesitation in my eyes. Lily cupped my face and kissed me softly, her thumb brushing away a worry line. I'd never let anything happen to us. Trust me, okay? You've worked so hard. Let me protect what we've built so you can finally breathe. There was so much hope in her voice, so much certainty, that I let myself believe her. I transferred the money that weekend, watching the numbers drain from my account into one with both our names, and at least that's what she said. She promised she'd handle everything. Go focus on work, babe. I'll take care of us. For a few days, I felt light. I stopped obsessively checking my account, started imagining a different kind of life. Less work, more weekends, maybe even a ring. Lily walked around glowing, humming to herself, sending me texts like, "Can you believe what we did?" But every time I asked for login details or paperwork, she'd say, "Later, it's complicated. Don't worry. I've got it under control." And every time I let it slide. I never realized that the miracle I'd worked so hard for was already slipping out of my hands, and I had no idea just how big the lie would turn out to be. It's strange how fast a house can turn cold. Not cold like the heat's broken, cold like the warmth between you has drained out, and no amount of blankets will bring it back. After the transfer, Lily changed. She stopped lingering over breakfast, started leaving before I even woke up, her hair slicked back and her eyes shining with something I couldn't name. Travis and I are making real progress. There's a new project I can't talk about yet, she'd say, grabbing her laptop bag and disappearing into the city. Most nights, she wouldn't come home until long after midnight, smelling like expensive perfume in city air, brushing past me with a tired smile that never reached her eyes. At first, I tried to convince myself it was a good sign. She was finally busy, finally making something happen. But small things started to add up. The bills still got paid, but I began noticing random charges. Restaurant bills from places we never went, ride shares across town at 3 a.m., strange ATM withdrawals I couldn't place. When I brought them up, Lily would sigh and turn icy. "Are you tracking every penny I spend? Do you seriously not trust me after everything I've done for us?" The accusation would hang in the air, heavy and unfair, and I'd always end up apologizing. "No, it's not that. I'm just worried. We've never had this much at stake before." She started locking her phone, changing passwords, taking calls in the bathroom with the fan running. When I'd ask who she was texting, she'd flash me that practice smile and say, "Just business. You wouldn't get it." Sometimes I'd catch her glancing at me out of the corner of her eye, like she was waiting for me to explode. I never did. I just shrank smaller, tried harder, and waited for her to come back to me. Nights grew longer. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, listening to the soft clicks of her typing behind a closed door. Sometimes I'd get up and find her hunched over her laptop, face lit blue by the screen, eyes darting at every little sound. "Go back to bed," she'd mumble, not even looking at me. I kept telling myself it was just stress, that every couple went through rough patches, that startups took everything out of you. But in the silent moments when all the excuses fell away, my gut twisted into knots. I knew something was wrong. I just couldn't prove it, yet. It was a Thursday night when everything shifted. The city was quiet for once, rain tapping on the windows, and I was curled up on the couch when Lily burst through the door. She looked flushed, hair wild, and underneath the familiar vanilla of her perfume, there was something sharper, a cologne I'd never smelled before. I stood up, half joking. "Did you walk through a men's section or something?" She shot me a look colder than I'd ever seen, her jaw tight. Seriously? You're going to interrogate me after the day I've had? Stop trying to sabotage my career just because you're jealous I actually have things going on. That accusation stung more than I'd admit. I tried to brush it off, mumbling an apology, but she wouldn't even meet my eyes as she stomped off to the bedroom, door slamming behind her. The next day, she left early. I'm at a business retreat with Travis all weekend. Don't wait up. I spent the weekend alone, wandering from room to room in the apartment I paid for, every shadow feeling sharper, every silence heavier. My friends could tell I was unraveling. At dinner, my best friend Tim leaned in, voice low. Man, I know you love her, but none of this adds up. She's never around, you look like you haven't slept in weeks, and you keep making excuses for her. Are you sure she's not screwing you over? The question burned, but I couldn't let go of the hope that we were still on the same side. She's just under pressure, I told him. It's complicated. But the seed of doubt had been planted. One night, after Lily left her laptop open, I couldn't help myself. Hands trembling, I started scrolling through our joint account statements, heart hammering. That's when I saw it. Massive wire transfers, thousands at a time, all going to an LLC with Travis's name on it. Not once, not twice, over and over, numbers draining out of what used to be my life's work. My breath caught in my throat. The room spun. The truth was finally clawing its way to the surface, and it was uglier than anything I'd dared to imagine. And in that moment I knew. Everything I'd built was slipping through my fingers. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely control the mouse. Every click felt like a punch to the chest. I scrolled through statement after statement. Wire transfers, marked as consulting fees. Some for $5,000, some for $20,000. Every month, money I thought was safe was vanishing into Travis's business account. Our savings, the $200,000 I'd sweat and sacrificed for, was evaporating right before my eyes. I could see the exact dates, my birthday, our anniversary, even the night we'd celebrated our future. All of it, quietly siphoned away. I dug deeper, searching her email, hands slick with sweat, half hoping I'd find some rational explanation. Instead, what I found stopped my heart. There were messages between Lily and Travis, hundreds of them, buried under folders with boring names like invoices and tax docs. They talked in code sometimes, but there was no hiding what was happening. Finally, have the capital to launch, thanks to you and your trust. Couldn't have done it without you. That was from Lily, sent at 2:14 a.m., the same night she'd told me she was working late on a proposal. But it was Travis's reply that really broke me. Thank Lily for believing in us. This is just the beginning. Love you. No business partner calls their investor love. I stared at that line until the words blurred, reading it over and over, trying to force it to mean something else. But I knew. I knew it in the way your body knows when you're about to be hit by a car but can't move. Suddenly, the late nights, the secrecy, the cologne, all of it made a terrible kind of sense. Not only had Lily funneled every cent I had into another man's business, she was in a full-blown affair. I was nothing but a paycheck and a cover story. The walls felt like they were closing in. The air got tight, and all I could hear was the blood roaring in my ears. Everything I'd worked for, everything I'd trusted her with, was gone. And in that moment, as my world spun out, I realized I'd been building my future with someone who'd already sold it to someone else. I don't remember how long I sat there, paralyzed, clutching my phone with the emails open, the numbers dancing in front of my eyes. It was like I'd left my own body, floating above the scene, watching a version of myself unravel. When I heard the front door click, I snapped back, Lily's footsteps echoing down the hallway, purse slung carelessly, humming like nothing in the world was wrong. My heart thudded so loud I thought she'd hear it. She barely glanced at me. "Hey, you look awful." Her voice was breezy, almost bored. I tried to speak, but my throat felt like it was full of sand. I thrust the laptop toward her, the screen blaring with her emails and the account statements, my hands shaking. "You want to tell me what this is?" My voice came out thin and raw, barely more than a whisper. Lily didn't even bother to sit. She looked down, scanned the screen, and God help me, she actually laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Seriously? You're only figuring this out now? I always knew you were too naive to survive in business." She met my eyes, her own flat and unblinking. "Travis is a real man. He has vision, ambition, not like you, grinding away at jobs you hate just to play it safe. I never believed in your little dreams, not for a second. I just needed your savings and your stability to get to this point." The words hit me in waves, each one heavier than the last. I could barely breathe. "So, all this time, we were nothing?" My voice cracked. She shrugged, lips twisting into a cruel smile. "We were convenient. I got what I needed. Now I'm moving on to bigger things. I owe you nothing." I felt the world tilt, all the memories, all the late nights and inside jokes, all the promises, turning to ash right in front of me. Humiliation flooded through me, hot and suffocating. I was nothing to her. Nothing but a stepping stone. I couldn't stand to look at her another second. I stumbled out of the apartment, didn't even remember grabbing my coat or my keys, just needed to escape. My chest was tight, legs rubbery, the city outside spinning. Behind me, I heard Lily's voice, light, triumphant, already on the phone with Travis. She was celebrating. I was broken. And for the first time, I realized I had absolutely nothing left to lose. The days after felt like drifting through a nightmare with no edges, everything blurry, heavy and unbearable. I didn't go home. I couldn't. I took the long way to my best friend Tim's place, walked in without saying a word, and collapsed on his couch like my bones had turned to sand. He didn't ask questions, just handed me a blanket and let me crumble in silence. The shame was too thick to speak through. How do you tell someone you loved a person who gutted you so cleanly? I turned off my phone, ignored calls from work, ignored texts from my mom asking if I was eating properly. The idea of explaining that the woman I spent 4 years building a future with had used me like a bank and then tossed me aside felt humiliating beyond words. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face again, that cold smirk, that laugh. "You were just a stepping stone." The phrase replayed like a sick soundtrack, shredding what little pride I had left. My savings were gone, every cent. My credit tanked from charges I never approved. I checked my accounts compulsively even though I knew what I'd find: nothing. Less than nothing. A gaping hole where my future used to be. I kept asking myself if this was somehow my fault. Maybe I worked too much. Maybe I trusted too easily. Maybe I ignored everything I shouldn't have. I stopped eating regularly. I slept in fits, waking up drenched in sweat, gasping for air. Tim tried to pull me out of it, offered to take me out, insisted I talk to someone, but I felt like I was underwater, and every attempt to reach the surface only pushed me deeper. At night, staring at the ceiling, I'd wonder how someone could look into my eyes for years and feel nothing, how I could have been so blind. And then came the darkest thought, the one that scared me even more than losing the money. For the first time in my life, I wondered if I was even worth saving. I didn't know it then, But rock bottom wasn't an ending. It was the moment before I finally started fighting back. I wish I could say I pulled myself up on my own. The truth is, if Tim hadn't dragged me out of bed and shoved a mug of bitter coffee into my hands, I might have wasted away in that apartment staring at nothing. "You can't let her win, man," he said, voice low but urgent. "This isn't just about the money. It's about your life. Get up." He wouldn't let me wallow. He found a number for a lawyer online, shoved it into my palm, and said, "Call today." Sitting in that lawyer's cramped office, I felt exposed and stupid, clutching a folder of bank statements and emails like they were proof of my own failure. I started explaining, stumbling over the details, until the lawyer raised an eyebrow and said, "Son, if what you're saying is true, she may have committed multiple felonies." My heart lurched. "But the money's gone, isn't it?" She shook her head. "Let's see." For the first time in weeks, I forced myself to open everything, every account, every statement, every old receipt Lily had ever emailed or texted me about. I traced the wire transfers, matched them against Travis's LLC, dug into business registries, even found Instagram posts showing off his new car and designer suits. The lawyer leaned over my shoulder, her eyes narrowing. "You see this?" She pointed at a line of transactions, huge sums going in but barely anything coming out. Most of the money was still there, untouched except for a few flashy purchases, just waiting for the next phase of their big idea. Together, we documented everything. Screenshots, timelines, email headers, even fake signatures on transfer forms. She started talking about restitution, fraud, financial abuse, criminal charges. Words I never thought would apply to my life or hers. For the first time since Lily gutted my world, I felt something sharp slice through the fog. Not just hope, but fury. The urge to take back what she stole and make her answer for every lie. As I left the office, I realized the pain hadn't vanished, but it had changed shape. It was no longer just grief, it was fuel, and for the first time, I wanted to see what I could do with it. The process moved faster than I ever thought possible. My lawyer filed the paperwork to freeze Travis's business account and subpoenaed every single transaction, email, and contract tied to Lily and him. She told me to brace for chaos, and she was right. The bank flagged the account for fraud and theft the same week, locking out all access just as Travis tried to withdraw everything and vanish. Suddenly, all his swaggering confidence evaporated. He fired off panicked emails to Lily, blaming her for the mess, and tried to claim the money had always been hers to begin with. The authorities swooped in, and neither of them had the chance to clean up their trail. Lily was served at work. I'll never forget the text she sent me that afternoon. A single, trembling, "What did you do?" I didn't answer. Her parents called next, their voices cold and clipped, but I let it ring. When Lily showed up outside my friend's apartment, her bravado was gone, replaced by this haunted look I'd never seen on her before. "You can't do this to me," she hissed. But even she knew it was over. Her world began to unravel. Travis, her visionary partner, immediately started cutting her off, forwarding emails to lawyers, and blaming her for everything in an attempt to save his own skin. The same friends who'd cheered her on now kept their distance. Her phone, once glued to her hand, barely buzzed. Online, rumors started swirling. Someone leaked screenshots of transactions and flirty emails, and people started asking questions about her ethics, her judgment, her loyalty. She tried to spin a new narrative, but the damage was done. For the first time since this all began, I was watching from the outside. She was the one scrambling for explanations, the one losing sleep. My lawyer handled the calls. my inbox filled with updates about case numbers and restitution, not desperate pleas from her. The balance of power had finally shifted, and I felt a strange, quiet satisfaction settle into my bones. For once, the consequences were hers to carry, and I realized I'd only just started to take my life back. Months blurred together in a haze of depositions, signatures, and courtroom air thick with tension. My lawyer was relentless, pushing every angle until the day finally came. A judge with tired eyes and no patience for theatrics ruled in my favor. Full restitution plus damages for fraud, he said, gavel cracking like thunder. I barely heard the rest. All I could do was grip the arms of the courtroom chair and let the relief wash over me, every muscle shaking, as if my body had been waiting for this moment to exhale. Travis tried to pull his usual tricks, booking last-minute flights and wiring cash through shell accounts. But law enforcement was already a step ahead. They nabbed him at the airport, and it didn't take much to make him flip on Lily. In the end, he painted himself as a pawn, handing over documents and voice recordings that only deepened Lily's guilt. Watching their alliance fracture under pressure was almost as satisfying as the balance notification I got days later. My savings, every cent, plus a little extra for my trouble, blinking on my phone. I stared at those numbers for a long time. They didn't erase the betrayal, but damn if it didn't feel like poetic justice. Lily's world unraveled in slow motion. The court seized her accounts, repossessed her car, and posted an eviction notice on the apartment she used to lord over me. I heard she packed her things in garbage bags, wearing the same haunted look I'd seen after she was served, clutching at shreds of dignity as she walked out for the last time. The people who once adored her, who called her brilliant, magnetic, unstoppable, suddenly vanished. Her family, mortified and exhausted, stopped returning her calls. Her friends moved on to new drama, new faces. For the first time since this all began, I felt something close to peace. The weight in my chest finally let go, replaced by something lighter, cleaner, vindication. The world hadn't righted itself overnight, but for once, justice had been done. And standing there in the quiet, I realized I was finally, truly free. The future was mine again, this time on my terms. If there's one thing about betrayal, it doesn't stay secret for long. The story of what Lily and Travis pulled off spread through our old social circles faster than I could have imagined. People love a scandal, but this wasn't just gossip. It was the kind of downfall that made everyone look at their own lives a little closer. Overnight, Lily's reputation tanked. The woman who once dominated every room now became the warning in whispered conversations. Her name was attached to words like fraud and backstabber, not innovator or inspiration. One by one, friends I hadn't heard from in years slid into my DMs. Some apologized for not believing me. Others admitted they'd always felt something was off. "I should have said something, man. I'm sorry," one old college buddy wrote. I appreciated the apologies, but a part of me also felt hollow reading them. It was easy to see clearly when the dust settled and the damage was done. Still, I let it go. Maybe we were all fooled by her charm, or maybe we just wanted to believe in the story she sold. Lily, meanwhile, refused to accept the new reality. She tried everything. New social profiles, fake accounts, a slew of posts painting herself as the real victim. "He stole from me," she'd write, or "I was manipulated too." But nobody bought it. Even her closest friends turned cold, tired of her spinning, tired of the drama. Travis, ever the survivor, slipped out of the spotlight, his phone numbers disconnected and socials wiped clean. Last I heard, he was living out of motels, dodging creditors, leaving Lily with nothing but burnt bridges and an empty inbox. She started calling me late at night, her number popping up again and again. Sometimes I'd get voicemails, her voice cracking, begging for just one more chance, or asking for a loan to get back on her feet. Each one sounded more desperate than the last, shifting from anger to tears to flattery. I never answered, not because I wanted her to suffer, but because I finally understood my peace was worth more than any apology, any half-hearted plea. I had nothing left to give her, not forgiveness, not money, not even a response, and for the first time, that felt like freedom. I didn't expect to see Lily ever again, not in the flesh, not after all the courtroom drama, the endless calls, the voicemails I left unplayed. But one Sunday afternoon, as rain tapped against my windows and I finally felt the world settling down, she appeared. She was standing on my new doorstep, drenched and trembling, her eyes red and wild. For a second, the old pain surged up, memories of her in happier times, laughter in that old shoebox apartment before it all fell apart. But the moment she started crying, sobbing out my name, I felt only a strange detachment. She tried to push her way inside, desperate to close the door behind us. "Please, just hear me out, please," she begged. "I made a mistake. Travis manipulated me. He brainwashed me. I lost myself in all of it. But we can fix this. We can rebuild, I swear. I'll do anything." The tears poured down her cheeks, her hands shaking as she clutched at my arm like a drowning person. For a split second, I saw a flash of the woman I once trusted, and it almost made me hesitate. But I kept my distance. "Lily, the court's already settled everything. There's nothing left for us to talk about." She sniffled, nodding frantically, shifting to business mode. Okay, let me pay you back in installments. I'll get a job, I'll make it right. Just don't shut me out. I have nothing. You're all I have left." I shook my head, keeping my voice steady. "I'm done, Lily. You need to leave." And that's when the tears dried up, replaced by something colder, rage. She straightened, voice suddenly sharp and venomous. "You think you've won? I'll ruin you. I'll tell everyone you abused me. I'll take everything you have left, I swear." She screamed, slammed her fists against the wall, but I stayed calm, pulling out my phone and hitting record. Her threats, her accusations, they were all just noise now, something I could finally protect myself from. After a few minutes, she realized I wasn't moving. The fight left her all at once. She stepped out into the rain, shoulders shaking, and disappeared down the street. I closed the door, locked it, and felt the silence settle in again. That was the last time I ever saw Lily in person, and for the first time, I knew the story was truly over. At least, the part with her in it. Recovery was not some neat arc, no clean line from broken to whole. It was messy. Sleepless nights, endless questions, grief that snuck up in the quiet moments, and bursts of anger that surprised even me. But if losing everything had taught me anything, it was that pain could be a blueprint. I was free now, not just of Lily, but of the constant pressure to prove myself to someone who never really saw me. That realization was sobering. My life felt blank at first, but slowly, that blankness became possibility. With the money I got back, I didn't rush to fill the space she left. I took my time. I found a new place. A sunlit condo on the edge of the city. No memories clinging to the walls, no secrets in the corners. I painted every room myself, watched the morning light change the color of the kitchen tiles, and let silence become comfort instead of threat. Some nights, I'd sit on my little balcony and just breathe, the city humming quietly below, feeling the peace settle into my bones. I bought furniture I liked, hung art that made me smile, made my bed the way I wanted. Therapy became part of my routine, no longer something I was ashamed of, but a place where I could actually look at my pain and understand it, instead of running away. I called old friends, apologized for falling off the grid, let them remind me of who I was before everything went wrong. I booked my first trip in years, backpacking solo through the mountains, letting the world show me how big and wild and beautiful it still was. With every step, I started trusting myself again. The next time I heard someone say, "Trust your gut," I actually believed it. I made a silent promise. No one would ever control my future, my finances, or my happiness again. Sometimes, the worst betrayals are the ones that force you to find yourself, the version of you that's stronger, wiser, and more awake. I built my new life slowly, from the ground up, this time choosing peace over pain. I stopped waiting for the next disaster. I learned to love the quiet, to see the beauty in ordinary days. And somewhere along the way, I realized this was what I'd been searching for all along: a home, a future, a self that felt real, a life that was finally, truly mine. Months slipped by, and my new life grew roots. I was sitting in a coffee shop, scrolling absently through Instagram, when I saw Lily's face on a mutual friend's story. Only I barely recognized her. She looked older, exhausted, hollow-eyed in a crowd of strangers. The caption was blunt: "Some people never change." I watched the next few clips, piecing together the whispers. Lily was homeless now, crashing on couches, clutching the same old story. Everyone else was to blame. Her network of enablers had dried up. Nobody wanted to risk their own skin for her lies anymore. Travis's name kept popping up in scandal threads, too. He'd scammed a string of women across state lines, stolen money from business partners, and finally fled the country with a suitcase of burner phones. The people who used to brag about knowing Lily and Travis now deleted every photo, every tagged memory, like erasing them could rewrite the past. Watching all that chaos from a distance, I felt a flicker of pity. But mostly, I felt relief. For years, I'd been the one tangled in Lily's drama, her guilt trips, her emotional minefields. Now, all of it was behind me. Her mistakes, her betrayals, her noise. It hit me, quietly but powerfully, that revenge was never about the money. It wasn't about watching her fall or seeing her alone. My real revenge was reclaiming the one thing she could never touch: my dignity, my future, my ability to trust myself again. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need her to suffer. I just needed to be free. And I was. Now, when I share this story, it isn't for sympathy or validation. It's a warning. Don't let love blind you to betrayal. Listen to your gut, ask the hard questions, and never let someone else control your sense of worth. Sometimes the best ending is the simplest one. Just moving on, stronger, wiser, finally whole. That's my story, not hers, not Travis's, mine, and it's only just beginning.